Hello and good morning everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today where we are going to be discussing VMware vSAN with Veeam Availability Suite on HPE. So we're joined here by Paul Hargreaves, who's going to be presenting from VMware, and also Artem Filippov, who is presenting from Veeam. And we also have Stuart Curry here from Bytes, who are going to kind of just talk a little bit about the relationship between VMware, Veeam and HPE, and a little bit about Bytes.
Some of you may have already seen this slide if you've attended some of our events recently or been on another webinar, but really this captures Bytes as an organisation and give you some snippets of what where we've started, what we've become, and where we're heading really as an organisation. We were started back in 1982 and generally focused on licensing, software asset management, and that is really the core of our business, and has been and will be for many years to come. As an organisation, we strive to succeed, and we have done, becoming #1 Microsoft partner over the years, and will continue to be that. And also sharing 35% of Azure, Microsoft Azure Cloud sales across the UK. But really, I wanted to draw your attention to the awards that we've won, and in particular the 100 Sunday Times Best 100 companies in the UK. As an organisation, we strive to offer great customer service to our customers, and I think that is a paramount to show success to what we've done so far over the last few years. If you can just go to the next slide for me, please, Amy. So as I mentioned at the beginning, as an organisation, we're very much focused and have been focused on software asset management and licensing sales. However, we've diversified over recent years to more than that. So what that means, we've tried to stand up two new focused areas for us as business. One is in data center and one is in cloud. Data center is broken into three areas for us. That's including infrastructure, so private cloud for the on-prem, and that's mainly focused in and around emerging vendors for hardware. Availability, which includes Veeam, and we're a platinum partner for Veeam, and virtualization, and that includes VMware, where we're a premier partner for VMware. As we move into the new world of organizations working with flexible IT, we've seen organizations demanding more from their infrastructure. As such, we see the onset of hyper-convergence. Now, VMware, obviously with their vSAN technology, which you'll hear about very shortly from Paul, is one of the leading providers for hyperconvergence in the market. And alongside that, Veeam, in their own market space, is a leading market for backup. So if you just want to scroll to the next slide for me, Amy. As such, when we engage with any organisation, we tend to lead with an assessment service. So I want to just draw your attention to one of our services called Virtualization Optimization Assessment. This allows Bytes to work with our customers and understand exactly what their workloads and applications are doing to allow Bytes to size out any suitable platform going forward. It's a free service that we offer for our customers, and we tend to run it over a period of 4 weeks to capture your peaks and your lows of your environment. For further information on that VOA assessment, please reach out to Amy or myself after this webinar, or equally contact your account manager for more information. So if I just pass over to Paul, who will give you an insight into vSAN.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Hi there, I'm Paul Hargreaves. I'm one of the vSAN specialists over at VMware. And today I'm going to talk about what we've been doing in the virtualization space, especially around the storage side of things, and vSAN as a hyper-converged storage offering in general. But first I thought I'd talk about where VMware have come from. So before VMware really existed, what used to happen was you used to buy a server, install an application on it, and then as time went on, you had another application, so you bought another server, another application, another server, another application, another server. The challenge around that as an infrastructure, and we are going back a while now, 15, 16, 17 years ago, is that you end up with lots of little applications all having their own little silo. It becomes really difficult to manage these sort of environments because you end up with lots and lots of servers all doing random things. And when we looked at the servers individually, we'd find them pretty much be idle. And so there'd be a lot of wasted resource in the environment, lots of space that we could use for other things, but we didn't because, of course, this was how servers were built at the time. So then VMware came along and started virtualizing. And the nice thing about that was not only could you run lots and lots of applications on a server at the same time and therefore save money by cutting down the number of servers, but it also enabled some of the storage-related problems to be solved at the same time. And that was done by basically deploying a SAN. The SAN would be deployed, all the data that would be sitting on the individual servers would move into that SAN, and then that allowed for separation of the two environments so that the SAN could scale separately, the SAN could be backed up separately, the SAN could be looked after separately to the applications and the application servers. And so that meant that there was a lot of space for scalability, but also by consolidating some of those machines down, it enabled you to save money. Now, the challenges of that as an environment, and the ones that we've been trying to address recently, are that those two environments did have separate management domains. So you'd have a separate team, or a lot of large organizations have a separate team who had to worry about the storage, and then a different team who would look after the VMware side of things. And that means that there's cost there because you have to buy different equipment, but also you have to have different people running around doing those jobs. And in terms of time, because you have different teams involved in trying to look after this infrastructure, whenever two teams have to interact, there's always that chance for delays to be put in. And so, I mean, I've been in this industry a long time, and I would typically hear customers saying that to get something done would typically take weeks, you know, to get a new service up and running. And so we as VMware looked at that and thought, that's okay as an infrastructure, but maybe we can start virtualizing that SAN piece as well. So that's what we've done. So with vSAN, we basically virtualized the requirement for a SAN. We're using disks that we put inside the machines, and then we virtualize a SAN out of all the disks inside the machines. And that basically enables us to get rid of the need for that separate storage network, that separate storage equipment. The advantage of this is that because we built this directly into the VMware application and the VMware infrastructure, is that it's really, really easy to manage this. So what we wanted to do was basically allow the people who were managing this environment a very easy transition and make it very easy for them to look after it. Similarly, this reduces cost, and I'll talk a lot more about cost later on, but it reduces cost not only in the cost of the infrastructure and the hardware pieces, but also in terms of the day-to-day management of the environment, which allows people to go do more interesting things. And of course, a big chunk of that is less equipment. You don't need that separate physical storage area network anymore. And then we thought, now that we've got the storage inside VMware, can we start using some of the VMware techniques and features that we've got to basically enable something a little bit special? So we've added these things called policies, and policies really allow us to say to a virtual machine, you can be protected this way or stored this way. So for those customers who have a mixed environment where, for example, they might have some applications that want a certain level of RAID protection or a certain level of data protection, they can be given a policy that gives them that. And then other virtual machines, let's say dev test, can be given a different policy. And that way, then the storage takes care of it automatically and deals with the actual placement and the management of the environment. So when I look at a traditional environment on the left here, it used to be made up of some computes and then the software on top of that, so the VMware and then the applications, and then a network and storage. And that meant that the administrators would need to manage all those three things. And like I said, that would typically be 2 or 3 different administrators involved in any decision that needs to be made and that the business would ask them for. Now, in a hyper-converged world, you can basically merge those teams together and basically give everybody the same set of tools, and they can manage the same environment from one place. So in the VMware world, that is vCenter. So they can go into vCenter, they can do all the configuration of the environment, they can do the health checks, they can look at the performance of the environment, they can do all the things that they would expect to have done in their individual world in the old days, but all from that central console. So this really does enable them to work as a team and removes that need for separate departments or separate teams of people looking after the estate. People then wonder, well, so it's hyperconvergence, they've heard about it, they've heard, you know, it's been out there a little while now, they're sort of wondering what sort of workloads can be put in a hyperconverged environment. And some of the early offerings of hyperconvergence were really aimed at either VDI or dev test as the sort of place to put them. So they were aimed at specific workloads and were tuned for those. And we again took that step back and said, actually building a storage environment, building a compute environment for just one workload, it isn't really the right way to do things. So we've looked at this, and as we've basically built it for all the different types of environments that you can have. So business critical applications, the SQL servers, the exchanges, the databases, the oracles, the SAPs, all of those sort of things are very commonly run on vSAN and hyperconvergence. Also, some of the things that, again, people traditionally think about, like VDI, absolutely, remote office for small environments, definitely. But then we've also been looking at some of these new workloads that people are coming up with now. So you'll probably hear a lot of people talking about containers and cloud-native apps. Now, if an app is a cloud-native app, you would expect it to live in the cloud. I mean, that's, you know, just sort of be an obvious thing. But actually, what we found with a lot of customers is that they like to start small, prove that the environment works, and then when they want to scale it out, move it into a cloud. And then when they get the bills for the cloud environment, then they can make the decision, does it stay there, do they move it back? So vSAN enables them to do that because we have those hooks in there, those capabilities basically to run as a cloud native instance. And then as you move the workloads backwards and forwards, that'll work seamlessly. So we've thought about this holistically. We've thought about this as the entire environment, not just can we store some data. So money, at the end of the day, all of this comes down to money. So in terms of the savings that customers make, so on the left-hand side is a traditional stack where they would buy hardware, some software on top, and then the support side of things, including the day-to-day management side of things. Now, in this case, the hardware is cheaper because we're not using special SANs, we're not using special all-flash SANs. We're basically using servers. And then the disks inside them, although they're the same, have different prices, so the hardware costs tend to be a lot cheaper. On the right-hand side, the software is more because you're having to buy the virtualization software, the vSAN software. But then the day-to-day management is also much less, so that overall saves, 45%. That's common for our customers who are looking at these environments to save. So not only the CapEx cost at the initial day one, but also over the long term, quite large savings as well. So talking about the CapEx side of things, the purchase price, this might surprise a few of you, but the disks that you put inside a traditional SAN are the same disks that you could put inside a server. I mean, there's nothing, when Seagate make a drive or Intel make an SSD, they don't make magically different drives for those environments. They are the same sort of drives that go into both environments. But the storage vendors charge more money for them because they basically have to load on their capabilities and their technologies into that environment. So if you buy a disk and put it into a SAN, you pay one price. But if you go to a vendor like HP and buy the disk from them inside the server, it tends to be a lot cheaper. Similarly, the same with flash, and similarly the same with networks. If you add up the number of network ports you get on a SAN, and then you work out the price per port, and then you do the same thing when you look at a server, you'll find the price per port on a server is cheaper. So across the board, you generally tend to pay a lot less for the server side of things than you would do buying that traditional storage. And this is, again, where we can sort of leverage those commodity sort of pricing. And people think, well, why is that price so different? And it's just all about scale. If you look at a storage vendor with storage products, they don't sell that many of them in comparison to the number of servers and the number of disks inside servers that are sold. So that's where the difference really comes from. So in terms of innovation, so some people think that vSAN's new, and relatively it is. I started my world in the storage market, my career in the storage market, 20 years ago, and relatively speaking, vSAN is new. But already in the rapid pace of development that's gone into vSAN, the very frequent releases have enabled all of the features that you would expect in the environment to be ready on day one. So as you deploy vSAN now, not only can you get all the rich features that you would expect from a traditional environment, but we're also able to leverage some capabilities that the hardware SANs struggle with. So an example. Last year we added compression, DQ, quality of service, those sort of things, which are table stakes. But most recently this year, we added in the ability to turn on encryption. Now, encryption is useful for those environments where obviously disks getting lost is a challenge. But one of the issues that a lot of storage vendors have is that they have to have special disks. And that's because those special disks have hardware chips on them to do the encryption. Now, in the world of vSAN, we looked at that and thought, actually, we can do this better. We can do it with software. So we're basically using the special encryption that's built into modern CPUs from Intel. And we're basically doing that regardless of the equipment type. And that means, as a business, if you're buying infrastructure that uses one type of disk or wants to use NVMe and the new types of technologies that are being built in, we can already leverage that encryption across them. We don't have to wait for those vendors to bring out their new technology with those capabilities in. We've got it on day one because it's already done. And similarly, doing that doesn't impact compression and deduplication because those are done at a level where the encryption is done afterwards. So we basically looked at this infrastructure and again tried to do it in a sensible way and have that rapid performance, that rapid capabilities that you would expect in these sort of environments. So customers, for a product that's been on the market only a couple of years, I'm suitably impressed by the number of customers already who are adopting this. And it is every type of customer, every type of industry. We have customers using this, and we're up to over 10,000 customers now. And this isn't shelfware. This isn't, because this is a paid-for license. This isn't something that we just bundle in with other VMware products where it isn't necessary, but we just want you to have it so that it's included. This is customers who are using this have decided that this is a technology they're going to deploy and that they're going to use. And so this is really real-world customers doing this with lots of customers, like I say, in every single market you can possibly think of, in every single use case, running this. So HPE. One of the nice things about HPE is that there's lots of different platforms available with different form factors and different capabilities. And one of the things that our relationship with HPE has enabled us to do as VMware is to look at all the different types of products that HPE have and basically leverage the vSAN technology regardless of the hardware form factor or the capabilities that the machine has. So for example, the most common environment that people are used to is the ProLiant, the standard sort of servers, the rack servers on the top left. And again, we're supported on all the major configurations that they have. And we have this thing that we call a ready node. And a ready node really is a custom design already built for you so that you can basically say, I want 10 of these, and we already know all the parts that need to go inside the server, so it's all ready to go on day one. And so where you see, for example, the 380s, the 360s, 160s, some customers might say, well, I want to run this on a 580. And that is absolutely, you can do that. It's just not what we would call a ready node. We would just need to spend a little bit longer making sure that the components were correct. But fully supported, fully available. And we were supporting the HPE Gen 10s on day one. So again, we were ready for those because this is just software. Other interesting environments like the Apollo, which is extremely dense, or Synergy, the composable infrastructure that I know HPE are talking about a lot with their customers, we again fully support that. So as you go around the different technologies, as you go, actually, for our business, for our environment, we need Synergy, or we might need a traditional blade system, or we might need normal ProLiants. vSAN can be used and will work in those environments flawlessly. So the next thing I typically hear from customers is that bringing in a new storage technology is painful because it usually involves a new vendor who's not trusted, not understood, new techniques, new technologies need to be learned, tested, proven. So we try to make this again as painless as possible. So VMware has this built into the vSphere product and vCenter products. So vSAN is not a separate thing that you install. It is already installed in your environment. It's just a software license away from being turned on and used. So as long as you have the right disks and the right servers, then this can be turned on and used on the existing infrastructure, or you can buy new infrastructure that again matches one of those ready node configurations or is very close to those if you choose to. And because this is built into vSphere and is a native part of the VMware stack, all of our partners, like Veeam, fully work and are fully supported in our environment. There's no new software to install, so there's nothing that could potentially break when you turn this on. There's no new management tools because it's the same management tools you're already using. Yes, some new tabs will appear that you can go and make changes to, but it's not a whole new management stack that you need to learn. And because you can leverage the existing vendor relationships you have with people like HPE, you don't need to go and learn a new vendor or a new technology. It really is as simple as turning this on and going with it. So there's not very much risk in turning this on. In fact, I would say there's very, very little risk. It is just one of those things that, as a business, you look at and say, right, okay, this is the right thing for us to do. So on that, I'd like to say thank you very much for listening to me, and I'll pass over to the next presenter, Veeam. Thank you.
Okay, apologies once again, guys, for this disconnection. So my name is Artem Filipov. I'm systems engineer for the UK and Ireland region from Veeam side. So in most of cases, in case you're working with Veeam, maybe you've been on the sessions with me on the webinars. So the idea of today's session is to talk a little bit about the vSAN integration that we have right now. But let's first of all start with a little bit of history. So we celebrated our anniversary as Veeam this last year. And as you know, Veeam is more than 10 years on the market. That's amazing. So during 10 years, we're building the most innovative solution, most innovative from data protection solution on the market, and creating trends in data protection as well around the world. For years, we've been blowing up the market with out-of-box solutions and approaches with our products. So really, most of them became the industry standards, the industry trends, and started as a backup solution 10 years ago, specifically for the virtual infrastructure. At the moment, we're at the point where we're providing full availability platform for any kind of infrastructure, for any kind of business. Let's briefly recap one of our best heroes that help us to provide this kind of solution, and then we'll go to the integration, how this kind of thing can help us as well. So if you're our existing customer or not, I believe I'm 100% sure you've heard about our instant VM recovery capabilities, like the thing that can bring less than 15 minutes RTPO to the market. So whatever's happening in your infrastructure, you all the time have the option to restore your VM instantly from the storage back to your infrastructure without any problems. And as far as backup is nothing without the restore, it's really important how we're making this backup, with this intelligent, highly intelligent application-aware image processing. So when we're backing up your application, we'll track the VSS, we'll track all kind of stuff that's inside, because when we are making the protection, we do care about your business, we do care about the application that's inside. And that's extremely important for us as well. On the other hand, we're all the time providing, through all our way, we're providing this bunch of explorers for really granular restores from file level to the single item up to the application item restore. So simple and efficient engineless explorers for Active Directory for different applications. So when you need your data, when you need the specific item from the application, you can get it back without any problems. We got the thing for Exchange, we got the thing for SQL as well, for different kind of applications, for different scenarios. And you don't have to think about SQL protection, for example, anymore. You will do this for you. So that's the level of intelligence, that's the level of features that we have right now in the product. And even more, in case you'll think about the whole infrastructure, about the sandbox technology as well, which is extremely important, and specifically in our example, specifically in this vSAN approach, when there is no other way to create infrastructure snapshot, right? So amount of use cases for the snapshot for the sandbox technology, it's unlimited. You don't want to put your production in a risky situation. You can use sandbox. You can use it for patch, for testing DR simulation as well. So you have any kind of R&D activities. R&D guys will be grateful even more. So in this situation, when you are not able to create the snapshot in any other way, you can use sandbox approach to create this kind of thing, to create the sandbox where you can test anything that you need. However, Veeam is about the data protection, and all the way we're talking about the data protection, protection of your business. We are about bringing all the best practices to create really disaster resilient, disaster corruption resilient, or even more ransomware resilient solution as well. We're doing this to help you in any potential situation. We're trying to save your business. We're trying not to put your business under risk and support you in any kind of situations like that. And one of the ways to be able to provide this level of protection, it's playing in team with other vendors. Specifically with VMware, for example. We're trying to play in teams to provide the better solution, the better integration, the better support from different sides. And VMware vSAN technology is one of the very exciting features of VMware vSphere, in that it provides software-defined storage. We're really amazed about what kind of things you can do with vSAN. And personally, me, I'm tracking the vSAN development from the beginning, and it's an amazing thing, really. It's very different from the traditional process of provisioning storage. It's like you can add another host, you can get more processor, more RAM, and more storage as well in your infrastructure. There's a reason that SAN, it's one of the fastest selling products at the VMware, and that's the ease of provisioning, ease of managing storage. It's a big part of it. Here in Veeam, we've released support for vSAN a long time ago, around June 2014. And before that, Veeam customers, actually they could, in fact, back up virtual machines. Which more important, that they restore VMs that were hosted on vSAN as well. It could be done without any problems. But that support that we bring on the table, it added some really important technologies, the core technologies that like linked with the vSAN idea as well, with the concept. So let's say VMTK and vSAN, how Veeam actually support those. Let's say we are the only third-party backup provider for HCL, right? And I once got asked what actually HCL means. So basically what it means that we are vSAN ready. Veeam backup replication, we use all the proper APIs, all kind of API calls and functions to interact with the vSAN the way that VMware expected. So that means no performance issues, no problems, everything will be done how is it supposed to be. And that's officially confirmed by VMware itself. So when you're creating this kind of solution based on vSAN, you have to think about how you have to protect it. And Veeam, in this case, it's a perfect choice. But you might think, on the other hand, but we heard that Veeam is storage agnostic. So this vSAN support, it's honestly nothing special. Is it whatever the storage technology in use? Anyway, you can go to the VADP libraries, all the way, any backup solution leveraging them and extract the data from ESXi. It's just a part of VMware libraries, so claiming it's an advanced feature, it's not really anything one should be proud of. But what we are doing, it's not a support, it's a full integration with vSAN. vSAN integration is instead what Veeam has in backup and replication. That's how. So let's think how it works in a practical example, right? So let's say how we actually back up and protect vSAN. Can we do it straightforward? If you're our existing customers, you may heard about different ways, different transport modes to get this data from the storage. direct storage access, that's the fastest one at the moment. Yeah, hot add, when we're using some kind of virtual appliance, some kind of VM inside to get the data, or network, just getting data over the network. So we're providing different kinds of things. All of them, they have their own cons and pros. But the first thing that you have to keep in mind that vSAN is not a general, it's not a typical storage. It's not a block device. So there's no direct, for example, there's no direct SAN access to the storage. At the same time, vSAN is really outstanding. It's highly intelligent technology. And you are not able to protect it like straightforward. So let me explain what I mean. Let's take our lab as an example. So what we have around 4-node vSAN cluster in Veeam, and around, if I'm not mistaken, around 60 VMs running over it. vSAN 6.2 is the only storage we are using, and it's built with both SSDs, fast SSDs, and traditional HDDs as well. At the same time, we have a DC to our domain controller that built with Windows 2012, installed on a single disk. The virtual machine is running on E6i4, so that's actually the actual state of the design that we have. For the purpose of our backups, we're not really interested where this VM, this DC is executed. What we're interested in is the placement of vSAN disk components. The virtual machine is using vSAN policy. In this case, it's let's say it's like RAID 1 with 2 copies of the disk plus a witness component as well. So in case we'll put this in the picture, that's what we'll have. vSAN, by default, it has no data locality. So what can happen, and what you have to keep in mind, the virtual machine is executed on the same host, on the same node where a copy of the disk is stored, but it's not guaranteed. So there's no algorithm that will put the disk on the same host where it's executed. It can be stored anywhere. So now when Veeam is instructed to take a backup to protect this VM, it would actually connect to the node that's executing the VM and request via the network for the copy of the disk. But if the disk is not locally stored in this node, that would create additional network traffic, as the node would have to first retrieve the data from another node and then pass the data to the Veeam proxy, and would like to avoid this kind of situation. Because Veeam integration instead, it tries much as possible to reduce network traffic to the minimum. Backup, as you remember, it's a very stressful process for the infrastructure. So I would like to bring this to the minimum. We're always trying to retrieve the data from a node that has a local copy of the disk. So use this short way, not taking the data from another node, not overloading your network. So to do so, the ideal design we suggest is have Veeam proxies deployed as a VM on vSAN cluster, and in this case, we'll be able to detect the right proxy that's connected to the right node as well. So in our scenario, like there are 2 proxies, PX1 and PX4, that have local access to one of the 2 copies of the virtual disk. PX3 is actually marked as the same proxy, but it's like resource. It can access only the witness disk, that's all. And PX2, it's not connected as well. So PX4, in this case, when you're making the backup with Veeam, will be choosing to run to get the data from the disk located on the same node. This is pretty cool, really. In case you ask me, it's an amazing thing. That's what makes Veeam solution the best of the market. We do care about the small things, because when you integrate in the new technology, you as well have constant pros, and you have to keep the protection on the same level without any problems, without any issues. On another hand, when you're talking about vSAN, there's one core thing, one core technology inside, it's storage policy-based management. It's actually the way how you can control these 2 virtual disks, how you can place them and manage them as well. This thing allows virtualization administrators to, let's say, to remove the burden of manual placements of the virtual disk. With SPBM, admins can create multiple policies with the needed options, and when the policy is applied to the VM, vSphere will automatically check for compliance of the VM storage and actually store the disk where it's supposed to be. These policies can be changed in real time, and remediation again will happen automatically. This solution, honestly speaking, it's a huge advantage, and many admins are leveraging this capability more and more. But on the other hand, what will happen when the VM has to be restored from the backup? this small and really important thing, policy, will it be preserved or not? And that's what makes us compliant with the vSAN. Because the answer is yes. In case you use Veeam, then replicate it with a virtual machine. At Restore, the same policy, it's somehow connected by default, but you can choose a different policy. You can choose another place, another policy that's appropriate to the Restore. That's very important, since the power of storage policy is to deliver the right storage performance. It's to deliver another requirement that your VM needs. We need to make sure that when we make the Restore, when we get in the data from the backup, the very same policy is applied to the VM, and it does. And the choice of changes, it's really useful to have it as well. In Veeam, we believe, like VMware, that the future way to manage data centers is to do this, to make it by policies. And like the fact that the Veeam is already aligned to this vision, it's amazing. So when it will be developed, when you'll have more policy, it will be still supported. But creation of the backup, protecting the infrastructure, restoring, it's not all about Veeam. Yeah, we're providing the full solution to the infrastructure, including the monitoring as well. And as Veeam, we saw that vSAN is growing, it being seen in more of our customer infrastructure. As a result, we added the support of vSAN to the Veeam management pack for Microsoft System Center as well. So with this kind of reports, with this kind of alarms, you can track all kinds of activities related to the vSAN technology, seeing them through the single pane of glass without any potential problems. So and track and be on top all the way and be more reactive, more proactive as well. So in case you think high storage cost and complexity, it's often suppressed deploying of a complete storage and backup solution. With Veeam Backup Replication and vSAN together, we can help to deploy a more integrated, highly efficient, cost-effective availability solution as well. We're working in team, we're working together to provide the best digital life experience to our customers. And what we've talked today is only the part of the story. So that's the core, one of the core reasons, let's say, why Veeam and VMware, why we get better together when you're trying to deploy this kind of solutions to your infrastructure. So that's really an amazing thing. We're really happy about this situation that we can make this integration, that we're moving in this direction as well. So as well, that's all from my side. I believe we can jump to the questions as well.
Yeah.
I've seen something, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, so if you do have any questions at all, there is a questions box just at the right hand side of your screen there. And then also, I mean, if you would prefer to take any questions offline, there is an email address, tellmemore@bytes.co.uk. So you can send any of your questions to that email. Okay, so I'll just wait a couple of minutes, see if any come through. Okay, we have one question here. Under vSAN, how do you ensure performance of the disk reads writes if they have to go over the normal network?
That's an interesting question. And so what we've done is all I/O basically runs over the network. We've done that intentionally. And what we do is as we are building the network side of things, the network stack, we isolate or quality of service some of the network so that it's for vSAN only, and then we go off and look at the disks, and again, similarly, we take ownership of the disks and we apply quality of service rules to those through the controller to again make sure that we're getting the maximum amount of I/O that we possibly can from them. And something else that we do is we always use an SSD, even in a hybrid environment, as a cache, so that we always get performance acceleration for all workloads, so that no matter what the workload is, we're always trying to use as much SSD as we can. And obviously in an all-flash environment, everything's always accelerated.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Okay, so I think that might be all the questions that we have for today. See if any more come in when I wrap up. But thank you everyone for joining the webinar today, and thank you so much Artem and Paul for presenting as well. As mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, I'll send you all a link to the recording, and then also there's a feedback form at the end. So, and if you are interested in the virtualization optimization assessment that Stuart mentioned at the beginning, it's a free assessment we're offering. Please do mention that in the feedback form as well. Okay, yes, so thank you everyone for joining today, and thanks again to the presenters, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.